The Bauma exhibition in 2025 saw the release of some new crane models, and one of them was this Kobelco crane produced by IMC Models. It's a telescopic boom crawler crane and it's snappily named the TKE750G. The box is Kobelco branded and there are photos of the real crane. And if we go to the back, we see there's some branding information. It is IMC model number 31-0395.
Let's weigh it up.
Onto the weigh bridge it goes, and the box weighs in at about 3 pounds 7 ounces, and that is 1.56 kilograms. Let's open the box and see what's inside. And out comes the usual pair of trays, and in the top we can see there's a build manual. And don't worry, we'll be taking an in-depth look at that in just a moment. The trays are of the old-fashioned taped-up variety, so we'll cut the tape, and then we can lift the lid, and there are many parts all wrapped in soft paper. Let's now take a look at that build manual, and it's very comprehensive. It is in both English and Japanese, and as you can see there's a full parts list. In terms of the quality of the instructions, this is probably one of the best crane model manuals that we've seen. It has very detailed photos and explanations, and it also includes reeving diagrams. To assemble the model, there are a number of parts to be fitted, and here are some of them. Also included are some very good quality tools, so you have everything that you need. We'll start by putting the crane in a transport configuration, and we have some handrails to fit. These ones are metal and they just press in. And at the front of the cab there's a footplate to add. That is another press-in part, and the fit is good enough that it stays in place without drooping down. And there's also a protection guard that fits onto the cab roof. To gain access to the winches we need to remove a body panel, and that just gets eased off. A tool is provided so that you can operate either of the two winches, and you push in to release the brake on the drum. To get the rope off there is some tape, so we need to use the tweezers to pull it out, and then we run the rope through the rope guide on the top of the boom. We continue on and go over the boom top, and then we can reeve up the multi-line block. The model has a couple of options for the boom top, and at this time we'll just add a single sheave runner, and that gets fixed in place with a steel pin. And then we can reeve up the single line hook block. Here you can see we've added a small chain, but this is not included with the model, and that gives us something to tie the hooks onto in a transport mode. There are also self-assembly jacks on the undercarriage, and you need to screw in the feet on those. The other thing we can do straight out of the box is to pull off the track frames, and that puts the crane into its lightest travelling configuration. We can pin up the assembly jacks, and then the model is ready to be placed on a suitable piece of transport. In this configuration the model is at its narrowest, and so it's a realistic looking load. For the detail we'll start with the track frames, and they do have lifting points complete with holes. The metal crawler tracks are well formed. The self-assembly jacks are metal parts and they are uniquely numbered, although the pistons do have visible screw threads. Running along both sides of the body are textured walkways, and there are some tiny graphics signs, although they're not legible. But the cab is well detailed with good looking window sills, and there's a plastic mirror and metal grab rails. At the front there's quite a large looking windscreen wiper. Moving down the body there's a metal access ladder, and the body panels are individually detailed. The Kobelco graphics are sharply rendered, and the top has painted walkway surfacing. On the counterweight, the Kobelco name is sharp, and there are a couple of warning graphics. The lifting eyes also have properly formed holes, and that's always good to see. At the back of the crane is the counterweight self-assembly arm, and that's all modelled in metal. At the front there's a good looking beacon light, and a set of warning lights. Also at the front is an unusual third winch. Moving to the telescopic boom, and it has some distinctive patterning, and that also continues through to the inner boom sections. A full set of rope guides is also modelled. All of the sheaves on the model are metal, and the same is also true of the supplied hooks. Also included with the model are a couple of metal Kobelco load plates. Here is the crane arriving on site, so let's set it up to do some work. Firstly, we can simulate unloading using the self-assembly jacks, and you do need to use some support blocks to get the necessary height. Next we can bring in the crawler tracks and some other parts. So as an option you could display the model as a transport convoy. The crawler track assemblies get fitted to the undercarriage beams, and once they're in place you have a narrow configuration, and the crane could be carried that way on a larger transporter. Next we can add on an access ladder, and that just fits in place. And then we have a walkway that goes along the side of the body, and that just presses in. Running around to the other side of the crane, and there's another ladder to add. And then just to spice things up, we've got the walkways that this time come in two pieces. And that's one for outside the cab, and the second piece runs down the rest of the body. Next we have to get ready for some heavier lifting, and we have to attach the counterweight. The self-assembly arm could be used to raise the counterweights, but it's not so practical to display the model that way. The counterweight does come in two separate pieces, and the lower piece doesn't have any lifting eyes as such. But the giant hand crane comes to the rescue, and it just drops in place, and then we add the second block. To keep things in good order, there are a couple of steel pins which get pushed into the counterweights, and that helps to secure them together. We are nearly ready to go, but first we need to add in crawler extension blocks, and there's two on each side. And with those in place we can extend the width of the crawler tracks, and that improves the stability of the crane. Let's also erect our boom so we can show we are ready for action, and the hydraulic ram that controls it is very stiff, so the model does double as a bit of a workout for your arms.
Let's weigh it up again.
The crane goes onto the Cranes Etc. weighbridge, and it's about 2 pounds 5 ounces, which is just over a kilogram. Extending the boom is done in the usual way. You just pull out the sections, and it's good to have some weight on the hooks when you do it. Each boom section has a couple of locking points. The winches can be operated using the keys, and of course if you want to spin around in circles you can do that.
Time for a dim check.
Let's check the height of the model with the boom fully extended, and it's about 25 inches or 65 centimetres. The crane is unusual because it has this third winch, and that's because one of its applications is in foundation construction. The rope from it gets run up along the underside of the boom, and it gets used for the large hook block, and by attaching an alternative auxiliary head, you can configure the crane with 3 separate winches. This is a very interesting Kobelco crane by IMC Models. It comes with an excellent build manual, and the model is very flexible in terms of how you can configure it. It is also very well made with a high metal content, and it's all complemented by a very high level of detail. Overall, the model looks great, and it's certainly rated as excellent.